Good evening. This is the Auburn Comprehensive Planning Committee meeting today on August the 26th, 2025. Just for benefit of the public, this meeting will be a little different because we're going to be a workshop involved in it. So we're going to do the first part of the agenda here all together here. And then when we break for the visioning workshop, because we're going to be in clusters of groups, we're going to be moving into the community room. Unfortunately, right at this point, the city doesn't have equipment to record video or audio in the community room, and it would be a little difficult to kind of follow it because you'll be in clusters of groups. Speaking all at the same time in their group. So we're going to do the workshop after we finish the first part of the agenda. We're going to do the workshop separately in the other room. Then we'll all come back here because we're going to be talking about sort of what the direction of all of us members came up with in regards to the visioning. So I just mentioned that for those who may be tuned in or watching at a later time. We haven't headed out to a secret meeting. We just need different workspace and we don't have equipment. But if you if you tune in towards the end, you'll hear the conclusions of our work from the workshop going forward. So we'll start as we usually do with an icebreaker question. And Lauren is the chief in charge of ice breaking.
Okay, so the question is, what was your first job? And I'll start with Adam.
What's the question? What was our first job?
What was your first job ever?
Oh, okay.
I'm Adam Lee, and I was a busboy.
Dennis Bergeron. I've worked a lot of jobs in my life. The only one I ever hated was my first job, and it was picking apples at the apple orchard.
Bruce Ryu, my first job was paper boy in the morning, AM paper.
My name is Riley Bergeron, and my first job was in the hoop camp store.
Rick Whiting, my first job was mowing lawns for little old ladies for $1 a lawn.
Tim Cowan, I made more than $1 a lawn. Well, my first unpaid job was cooking one day, and then the other days, the opposite days was cleaning the dishes after dinner. First paid job, not for my parents, was painting houses.
Hi, I'm Jeff Hyman. My first paid job was working on the fish piers off Commercial Street in Portland.
My first paid job, although I started working about the age of 10, but not officially being paid. So my first paid job was working in a shoe factory.
Dana Staples, my first job was mowing all the lawns for Maine cemeteries. Quite a few cemeteries in Maine, like 26.
Matt Duval, and my first job was lifeguarding.
Kelly Butler, and my first job was working as a CNA only before I was a CNA, so I was working for seniors within the nursing facility.
Jane Coslow. Job was babysitting.
Becky Conrad. My first job was failed babysitting, and my mother had to take over. Hence, I have no children. And my real paid first job, because I walked out of my first real job, was mowing lawns in what was called the Triangle, which was picture Court Street with a little grassy area in the middle of it right out here. And that's where I was at 12 years old.
My first job was painting our neighbor's shed. and I did a really bad job. It was like a chunky, like I just kind of, but she paid me, so.
Hi, my name is Ashley Aaron, for those that I have not met. I'm new to Very Done, so excited to be here with you all today. My first job was working in a pizza restaurant, and I had to wear the suspenders in the little paper boy hat.
I'm sure you look beautiful.
Carrie Willett with Very Done. My first job was teaching swimming lessons at a summer camp.
Allie Toby with Very Done. My first job was refereeing U4 soccer games.
Well, I would note that all of us have progressed tremendously in our careers since the first job. Congratulations. As necessary, let's just go quickly through the roll call so we can have that for the agenda. Becky, why don't we start on your side?
Becky Conrad,
Jane Costello,
Kelly Butler,
Matthew Duval,
Dana Staples,
John Cleveland, Chair.
Jeff Hyman,
Tim Cowan,
Rick Whiting.
Riley Bergeron,
Bruce Ryu.
Dennis Bergeron.
Adam Lee.
Allie Toby, Very Done.
Kevin Price, Very Done.
Carrie Willett, Very Done.
Ashley Aaron, Very Done.
Lauren Cafe, City of Auburn.
And I believe Heidi Bertels is absent today. Next item on the agenda is the minutes from our meeting on July 22nd, 2025. I'll take a motion for the
So moved.
acceptance. We have a second? Seconded by Adam Lee. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes unanimously. I'm noticing that there isn't anyone from the public here today, but just for the record, we do provide an opportunity for public comment at all of our meetings at the beginning. This evening, we don't have anyone here. Next item is a community engagement. Quick update on the data that we've collected. A little discussion about the meeting in a box check-in. And Allie, that's you.
Thanks, John. Just quickly on engagement totals, the numbers haven't changed too much from what was in the engagement summary, sitting around 1,770 inputs into the project so far. That's across Social Pinpoint, middle school, high school survey, community survey, focus group event, open houses, and then some additional engagement that Lauren has done since then at the drop-in center for a listening session, tabling at National Night Out, tabling at the PAL Center Backpack Drive, and then a youth forum event that was put on by the city's high school interns this summer. Between National Night Out, the youth forum, drop-in center, and Backpack Drive, that added about 325 more touch points into the project. And those folks participated in a variety of ways, including some additional voting exercises similar to what was done at the engagement open houses as well. And then a handful more ideas on that main ideas wall, but nothing drastically different from what you would have seen in that engagement summary table up front. And then also wanted to check in with the committee to see if anybody has had a chance to do a meeting in a box yet, as we're putting the vision statement together today and over the next month or so. If there is an opportunity to do that, would hopefully want to wrap those up by mid-September, if you do have an opportunity to do that.
Okay. Thanks for asking. I had great aspirations, I would, but the reality has come that I'm not going to have time to do it. I don't know if anybody else plans one? Dana?
I attempted to, and I had very great difficulty coming up with a place to meet. I was told I wasn't able to use this room or anything inside of City Hall, and was after several failed attempts, I wasn't able to contact anybody at the rec department. It was pretty disheartening. But so I think I'm probably not doing one.
Okay. That is one of the challenges, community, by the way, is having public meeting space for everyone who would like to have one. Let's see. Next item is the inventory and analysis. This is version 3. And again, I'll turn that over to Ally for an update on where we are.
So similar to the last meeting with version 2, version 3 shared a track changed version and the clean version with all of you as well. That was based on the feedback that we had gotten between the last meeting and this meeting, and then some additional data sources, including information from Jonathan on the roads and airport section, and some water quality data from Auburn Water and Sewer to close that out. Moving ahead, look to share that version 3 with the community in a more public-facing way, so that full document, as well as more of a summary version of that in a story map version, so folks can go through and scroll and see some of that exact same content and that same data without the full kind of 200-page document that goes with that. But they do have the opportunity to see that full document as well, and plan to share that on Social Pinpoint and do a bit of outreach with that as well to share that that's publicly available now too. Lauren, I know there was another update on the sustainability piece, if you want to touch on that as well.
Yeah, John and I talked about adding an amendment to the agenda to discuss after the housing study. So I can talk about it now if we want. Does that work? Or do you want to wait?
Yeah, we could do it now. This is as good a place. So we'd like to add an item to the agenda that's not on. Lauren has been thinking about how best to integrate sustainability, climate change into the report. And so I'd like to ask the committee to add an item now for a discussion on how to add climate change and sustainability into the inventory and analysis. Is there a motion to add that item?
So moved.
Moved and
Second.
Adam Lee and Jane have moved and seconded. All those in favor? Okay. So, Lauren, share with us, I know you've been doing some thinking and you've been doing some discussion with others on how we may approach this. Share your thoughts with us.
Okay. Thank you, John. So, when thinking about the best way to include climate change, science, and data into the comprehensive plan in a way that's beneficial for the committee members as you're going forward and creating your actions and recommendations and policies, without doing a full-blown vulnerability assessment and climate action plan within the comprehensive plan, because that's out of our scope. I consulted with AVCOG and a few members of the committee and city staff, and we wanted to bring this forward to the committee to discuss that a potential option or avenue would be to have a chapter or a section within the inventory and analysis that went through each hazard, so from flooding to drought to effects on agriculture and so on. The state of Maine has really great data about how the state itself and various counties could be affected by climate change in the future. And so we can take that data and basically do an inventory of, okay, this could relate and affect Auburn in some way. They talk about housing as well, so there's issues that we brought up at the last meeting, how we want to use climate change and equity as a lens as we're looking through each section of the comp plan. And so there's really good data out there, and so without doing a full-blown, really detailed vulnerability assessment, which can be a recommendation from the committee if they so choose in the future, we can have a section within the inventory analysis so that you can reference what's the data on flooding, what's the data on temperatures, what's the data on weatherization of homes or age of homes, because I know that impacts Auburn, for example. So it's kind of the route that we're going. I know there's some discussion about having climate change be a part of the discussion for each section. So we had a transportation section, an economy section, and a housing section in the inventory analysis, whereas I proposed just having a standalone chapter that discusses each hazard kind of as it relates to climate change. And so I would love to hear your thoughts about that approach. The goal would be to have that finished by the October meeting, because then you will start thinking about future actions and policies. So that'll give you a good kind of basis to go off from as you start thinking about each of the ways that climate change affects Auburn.
Dana?
A couple things that immediately come to mind when you discuss that are, it would be really great to get an inventory and analysis if there's any ability to determine the electricity usage of the city, the entire city, and if any historical data that you could pull over the last, we'll say, 10 years, and how is that changing year over year. Another thing would be interesting to see would be the costs of storm repair damage for the last 5-6 years, we'll say. And what that looks like on a trend analysis. Those to me jump out. I think the city's efforts to have sustainable renewable energy, I think, should be in there as well. And I think that's the stuff that jumps out at me.
Are there any other items that come to any of your minds that might be useful, that might be somewhat more specific to Auburn? Floodplain areas, was that mentioned? Oh, I'm sorry, Tim?
No problem. One thought, kind of teeing off of Dana's suggestions, perhaps a little bit more detail from Public Works on the projected impact of our road conditions and maintenance schedule as it comes to, excuse me, the general temperatures, higher or lower during the winters, and how that's creating impacts in similar or different ways than it has in the past.
Other thoughts about data particular to Auburn that you think would be quite helpful to include?
I will add a note. Some of these, and I'll look into the availability of the data, might be ripe for a vulnerability assessment or recommendation. So something that we can say is we don't have the answers. We need to find that out. That could be a detailed vulnerability assessment of Auburn's infrastructure, which the state of Maine provides funding for. So that's kind of what we're thinking about too. But I'll look into that. Thank you.
Okay. Becky?
I'm not sure how this fits. I mean, I know it fits, but I don't know in terms of how you'll lay it out, how it would fit. I'm reading through everything again today. I'm just so struck by how much of the content is about housing and accessibility to housing, neighborhood, just over and over and over again. So just how a community, either where we are as a community or how we model to become a community that layers into housing policy, beyond where you can put a house, how do you make that house survive some of the changes coming toward us, like buried wires? I mean, everybody wants those, but we know they're incredibly expensive. But do you build that into communities that are looking down the road? So that comes to my mind.
Jane?
Just to follow up on that really quickly, I know that Phil Kroll has presented several times to the Sustainability and Natural Resources Board. They're trying to track, say, how many households in Auburn are using heat pumps, so you can sort of try to understand how the city is fitting into statewide goals on resilience and green energy and that kind of thing. And I don't know whether there's any data on, I mean, it's the issue of insulation and weatherizing is so important for us all, and particularly for people in older, less well-constructed homes. So, and I don't know if there's a way that you capture how much of that might be happening.
Dana?
Yeah, I think you can get a lot of data from Efficiency Maine regarding, heat pumps at least, as far as that adoption goes, and then any energy efficient appliances. And I don't know where you get the information about insulating homes. I think there's some grants out there available for that, but I don't remember if they're from Efficiency Maine, but I know that data must be available.
Anything else? Lauren? Run with it. You think of suggestions. And, I just want to be clear that Lauren is going to work on this. She'll take the lead. And we will proceed by having this separate chapter within the inventory and analysis. And you can update us on how it's going at future meetings. I think, what's the goal, October or something like that, have it done? Okay.
Just one additional thing that came to mind, and maybe this is already embedded in data that's in the inventory, but it does have to do with Lake Auburn and its vulnerability to various climate factors and what that means for the future of our drinking water. So I happened to talk to one of the scientists who's doing the monitoring on Lake Auburn, and we just had like the hottest temperature ever on the lake. Yeah. And so I think the more you can get specific data about, rain events, temperature, sort of signal events in terms of, the fish kill from some years ago, those kinds of things, not to paint, an apocalyptic picture, but just to make sure that everybody understands kind of what the dynamics are. And a lot of that may already be in pretty easily accessible state from the water folks at Lake Auburn.
Yeah, so I think, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, to follow up on that, I think there's a couple points that can be gathered from the water district. One is what Jane's referencing, which are the historical measurements. So those have been going on for quite some time. I think the other thing that would be useful, although I don't know, I can't remember the timing, Dennis might remember when we think we're going to have this done, but the water district is in the midst of a study relative to the water quality and a forward-looking trend analysis to understand better when advanced treatment options are going to be needed. Lots of that is driven by climate changes, and so even if the study is not going to be ready in our time frame, there's additional monitoring for that study that's now underway that could be available from a water district.
And Lewis and Auburn Water Pollution Commission, I think it is, probably has some of that data as well, the studies.
I think it's a Clean Water Authority or something like that.
Yeah. All right, those are a lot of good suggestions. Give us some sense of where the trends are going to be in the future and what the community is going to, how the community is going to have to address it. All right. Just a minute here. My computer went to sleep. I didn't give it permission to do that, but it did. Here we go. So that brings us to the housing study report. We had some discussion about that at the last meeting, I believe, and you've all had the report to look at. Thought it might be useful just to spend a few minutes doing a brief update on what the major findings were of that, since I think we all appreciate that housing is a major issue in this community and many others. Lauren, is that you? It says city staff here. I think
Great question.
you're the only one to tag right this minute.
Oh, no. Does anybody have any comments or questions about the study
Yeah.
itself?
One of the things I noted, I thought was quite a dramatic demographic change. If you take a look at currently the number of people are projected as well, that are going to be 1 or 2 people in the household. I believe that's up over 50% of the population, or the housing need in the community. That is a huge change from historically where there were larger families, larger homes, larger apartments. And obviously, the community currently doesn't have adequate number of smaller residential housing for smaller families. So that is important change going forward.
Mr. Chair, looking at the summary on the first, it's 70% of households are 1 to 2 people.
70%.
And only 20% of the units are sized appropriately.
Yeah. Excuse me, I was too optimistic, yeah. Jeff?
Yeah, a few comments that I would make. I do appreciate the work that the Housing Committee and HRNA did. I think there's a lot of very valuable data in the study, not just related to housing, but there's lots of other data points relative to other topics that we're going to take up, transportation, jobs, employment, things like that. I guess what I would say at a high level is that in order to meet the goals, at least the goals that have been set at a statewide level, the city's going to have to continue on the trajectory that they're on now, even to get to the 700, and have other strategies in order to close the gap with additional 500. And it seems from reviewing the report that the biggest gaps that we have here are in senior housing and low to moderate income housing. I think the track that we're on relative to market rate housing, if we continue that, we'll be able to meet that need. And as has been pointed out, I think that the type of units is significantly different than what we've historically seen. So we'll have to think about strategies around that. And the last comment I would make is that I think what you'll see coming as a follow-up to the report is more targeted goals by not just the total that we need, but by type. So we're going to need to have some targeted ranges for senior housing, market rate, middle income, low income, rental units versus single family. I think reports like this are great, but I think if the city council were just to accept the report, it's going to be like a lot of reports, right? It's going to sit there. So I think that the next step for this is to work with the council to adopt housing goals, which I think will be a really important input into the comp plan as we go forward here over the next 5 or 6 months, right? To work those goals into the comp plan.
Yeah, I would agree, that'll be an important part of our work, is putting together actual policies and action plans and implementations to address the various aspects of housing, but a number of other things, so that those can move forward and be there for not only the most current councils, but in the future as well. Any other questions, input on the housing report? Okay. That brings us to the exciting section, the visioning workshop that'll be coming up right now. I've taken the liberty to form outstanding 4 groups of folks from this committee who can work together in the next hour, an hour and a half, So I would suggest the following groups. There are 4 tables in the other room, all prepared for our work. And based on the number of people we have here, not only primary work is going to be done by us, the committee members. Staff will help at the various tables, but the primary work of thinking of these visions is our responsibility. So that's what we're going to be working on going for the next hour or an hour and a half. So I would suggest the following groups. Myself, Dennis Bergeron, oh, wait a minute, we're going to have to make a change here. All right. And I would add Bruce Rio with that group. So we're going to have groups of 3. Second group would be Jeff Harmon, Adam Lee, and Jane Coslow. Third group would be Becky Conrad, Matt Duval, and Riley Bergeron. And the fourth group would be Rick Whiting, and Dana, and Tim Cowan. Oh, did I apologize. So we're gonna, let's see, what group can you work with? How about with Jeff Harmon's group? I was thinking you might not be here this evening, that's why you didn't get to the list. My apologies, I'm glad you are here. Did I miss anyone else? I hope not. Okay. So just quickly, you've read quickly what we're doing. So we're going to be working in two general activities. One is going to be working on activities with values and priorities, and the 2 tasks are going to be identifying community values and establishing priorities under that activity. The second activity is going to be developing a vision. The first task is going to be what Auburn you think should be defined, what will define Auburn in the next 10 years. The second is what Auburn would look like in 10 years. And the third task is what it would feel like to be part of Auburn in the 10 years. Those will be assimilated, all those group ideas will be assimilated, and we'll come back here and share them. Are there any questions about that, or Ally, you want to add?
Yep. Just quickly before we break, John mentioned the overview for the questions that you all will be asked to answer. Just structure-wise, when we get in there, there will be some pens and some sticky notes. Before we get into that small group discussion, want to preserve a couple of minutes for everybody to individually brainstorm on their answers to those questions. So write your thoughts down on those sticky notes. Typically try to keep 1 thought per sticky note. And I'll keep track of time for those walk around. And then when we break for those smaller group discussions, want everybody to share what they came up with on their own and then start to group together some of those common themes. We'll have chart paper in there so you can write and group sticky notes together physically. We'll have members from the table here to help just take notes for that conversation. But really want this time to be for the committee to answer all of those questions with the ultimate goal of having really good kind of themes and bones to build a couple of draft vision statements off of. We'll take all of that information, compile that into a few different options for the committee to look at and review before the September meeting, and look to finalize that with this larger group at the next meeting.
Yeah, and I might add, if I'm thinking of this correctly, we want the themes more. We don't have to work a tremendous amount on this precise language. It's to get the themes out there, and then our consulting staff and a long-range planner can polish up that language to make us look really well-spoken. Is there any questions? Adam?
I'm just looking at this, and I'm going to be me. Are we just doing per person 1 value?
As many as you can come up with. Ideally, this is based in what you're seeing from the data, from the community engagement, what you've heard from others, as many kind of themes that pop up, as many priorities that come to you. In your packet, we have some examples of values and priorities. Values don't change over time. Priorities might. I value my health. I might focus on going to the gym for a little bit, but that might change over time, but I still value my health, as a bit of an example there. Again, if you have any questions on kind of that piece of it, any of us are able to help with that. But hope this is more of a brainstorming discussion session, and any ideas that come to mind, please write on your notes.
Any other questions before we adjourn to our workshop? Okay, hearing none, let's adjourn to the workshop, and we'll be back here after we finish that work. Go see where Jeff is. Here they come, here they come.
Get us going, John.
I was just about ready to launch you. Yeah.
Recorded tonight, that light doesn't come on. Hold on.
Welcome. We're just returning back from our workshop session on visioning. The group did excellent job in addressing the activity areas and coming up with some very good suggestions, and interestingly, a lot of consensus among the different 4 groups that were working, so that's helpful. Barry Dunn and the staff is going to assimilate all of that information and draft it in good narrative form and present it back to us so that we can review it and see if that's consistent with what we believe we've developed this evening. But I think we're on a good path to completing the vision portion. That will be a basis for which we look at land use development and policies and priorities and actions in the future. Any comments from any of the members that participated? Good. Thank you very much. I thought you did great work tonight. Really appreciate your time and effort. And we'll meet again September, what's the 4th? Yeah, whatever the 4th Thursday is, we're going to meet again in September. 23rd, okay, all right. With that, I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by?
Dennis moved.
Dennis moved, and who second? Becky seconded. All those in favor? We are adjourned.